Can we listen to other gurus? There are many gurus, very powerful, very wonderful speakers. Is it okay to listen to them? So what I tell them is that, are we going to sit here and say there's nobody else outside of ISKCON who can speak about Bhagavatam? Of course there is. Of course there are amazing Vaishnavas. Of course there are wonderful devotees who have very deep realizations and speak in many beautiful ways. However, for someone who came to the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada always stays very, very special. How can we not listen to Srila Prabhupada? How can we not put Srila Prabhupada's instructions first? We're not saying that there's no other great devotees in the world, but what we are saying is that Srila Prabhupada is very, very special. And just like when Prabhupada became very sick in the early days, it was only 1967, so the devotees were very young. So Prabhupada became sick, he had to go back to India. They said, how is it all going to go on without you? Prabhupada had to go, and as Prabhupada was leaving, one devotee came to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, now you're going back to India, maybe you can send one of your god brothers. He thought it was a good suggestion. When Prabhupada heard that, Prabhupada looked down, and you know what he said? My spiritual master was no ordinary spiritual master. My spiritual master saved me. And then Prabhupada walked away. And this devotee realized, I made a big blunder. Because it's not that Prabhupada is just another spiritual master. Prabhupada saved us. Prabhupada gave us a chance. There'd be no worldwide opportunity for anyone to connect if Prabhupada never came. And therefore, we will not sit here and say there are no other Vaishnavas. How can we say that? But at the same time, for us, we will say there's no one like Srila Prabhupada. That you have to be convinced of. If that you are not convinced of, maybe we are not fully grateful. The Sanskrit word for gratitude is krita gya. Gya means to know, and krita means what has been done for you. So we may like listening to so many things, but what did Prabhupada do for us? Prabhupada made the sacrifice. Prabhupada came all alone. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada for us is the living Bhagavata, and therefore he is no ordinary spiritual master. So today I'll just read from the Bhagavatam. We don't have the verse on the board, but it's a very famous verse, so you can repeat after me. You'll know this verse. This is first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter number 3, entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. And this is text number 43. So if you want to get it on your phone, 1-3-43. Can repeat after me. Krishne Swadhama Pagate Dharma Jnana Dibishaha Kalo Nastadrishamesha Puranarko Dunodhitaha Krishne Swadhama Pagate Dharma Jnana Dibisaha Kalo Nastadrishamesha Puranarko Dunodhitaha Krishne Swadhama Pagate Dharma Jnana Dibisaha Kalo Nastadrishamesha Puranarko dunodhitaha. I'll just do the translation and purport in the interest of time. Translation. This Bhagavata Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. I'll just read the first part of the purport. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Lord Sri Krishna has his eternal dham or abode where he eternally enjoys himself with his eternal associates and paraphernalia. And his eternal abode is a manifestation of his eternal energy, whereas the material world is a manifestation of his external energy. When he descends on the material world, he displays himself with all paraphernalia in his internal potency, which is called Atma Maya. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he descends by his own potency, Atma Maya. His form, name, fame, paraphernalia, abode, etc. are not therefore creations of matter. He descends to reclaim the fallen souls and to re-establish codes of religion which are directly enacted by him. Except for God, no one can establish the principles of religion. Either he or a suitable person empowered by him can dictate the codes of religion. Real religion means to know God, our relationship with him, and our duties in relation with him, and to know ultimately our destination after leaving this material body. The conditioned souls who are entrapped by the material energy hardly know all these principles of life. Most of them are like animals, engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. They are mostly engaged in sense enjoyment under the pretension of religiosity, knowledge, or salvation. They are still more blind in the present age of quarrel or Kali Yuga. In the Kali Yuga, the population is just a royal addition of the animals. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Today I want to begin our series on Srila Prabhupada, the Living Bhagavata, by talking about how Srila Prabhupada was a visionary. Here the verse is explaining that Kali Yuga is a very, very dark place. And therefore people don't know where they're going, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know the purpose of life. Everyone is rushing around doing so many things, but they never took the time to ask, who am I, where am I, and what's the purpose of life? You would never go into a car, turn the ignition on, start driving for 2 hours, and then turn to the person next to you and say, by the way, where are we going? I mean, no one would ever do that. The logical thing would be, before you come into the car and start driving, first you understand, where are you trying to go? But that's what everyone in the world does. They decide, I'll do this, I'll achieve this, I want this, I desire this. One day I will be this. But no one asked, why am I here? What is the purpose of life? Therefore, everyone in Kali Yuga has lost their vision. The most basic vision people don't have. One time Srila Prabhupada was walking around a temple, they were doing parikrama. And Prabhupada stopped and he turned to the devotees and he said, I am seeing, but you are not seeing. I thought, wow, what is Prabhupada seeing? So they walked once round again. Prabhupada said, I am seeing, but you are not seeing. What does the pure devotee see? Then finally they went round a third time. Prabhupada turned to the devotees. He said, I am seeing, you are not seeing. It's 11 o'clock in the morning, the sun is out, and someone has kept the light on. The pure devotee sees very, very deep, spiritual, powerful things. But the first thing that the pure devotee sees is the most basic of things that most people are not seeing. Most people are blind. They're living, but they're blind. They have no idea. And so Srila Prabhupada is the visionary. Just like the Bhagavata gives knowledge, knowledge is compared to light, the sun. Krishna Surya Samahoya Maya Andhakar. Jahan Krishna tahan nahi Maya Radhikar. Krishna, knowledge of Krishna, Krishna's devotees are like the sun. Jahan Krishna tahan nahi Maya Radhikar. And there, where the knowledge is, where the devotees are, where Krishna is, there cannot be the darkness of ignorance. And so the pure devotee is a visionary. Srila Prabhupada was a visionary. He could see things that most people don't see. You see that we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. We see the world through these eyes, through this vision. And therefore, two people can see the same thing and see something very, very different. Right? Just like if there would be a Bharatnatyam dance here, then according to someone's vision, they will be seeing different things. If someone is very, very materialistic, they will only be looking at the person, how beautiful they are, what they're wearing, and they will have some other desires in their mind. If someone is a little bit more refined, they will look at a Bharatnatyam dancer and they will appreciate, oh, they dance very nicely, this move was done very well, this artistry is very, very good. But if someone is more refined, then when they see a Bharatnatyam dance, they will understand the meaning behind it and it will trigger a remembrance of Krishna. In other words, three people could see a Bharatnatyam dance and see something very, very different according to their consciousness, according to their knowledge, their insight. And so, Srila Prabhupada was a visionary because he could see things in the world that other people could not see. Shri Shri Radha Banki Bihari ki. He could see things that other people could not see. The first thing is Srila Prabhupada could see opportunities that other people could not see. Srila Prabhupada went to Russia. No one saw any opportunity in Russia. Forget about preaching in Russia. To get vegetarian food, you're struggling. It was the Iron Curtain. It was a communist country. Nobody wanted to know about God. And if you tried to talk about God, you would be killed. No one saw any opportunity for Krishna consciousness in Russia. But Prabhupada was a visionary. He saw the opportunity and he went there. And 50 years later, outside of India, the Hare Krishna movement is the biggest in Russia. That is a visionary. When Srila Prabhupada got the land in Juhu, Mumbai, everyone was thinking, why have we come here? Nobody is here. Nothing is here. It's just a field infested by rats, infested by snakes. And there are all these gundas who are trying to drive us out of this land. The devotees came to Prabhupada and said, these gundas are doing us a favor, let's get out of here. Prabhupada was a visionary. He said, no, this is the place that the temple has to be. 50 years later, Juhu is the most expensive real estate that ISKCON has in its entire worldwide movement. That's a visionary. A visionary sees something that other people don't see. They see opportunities. Nobody thought the Krishna consciousness movement could be spread all over the world. Prabhupada said, some fool will do it. Some fool who has complete faith in the words of Chaitanya Dev and the order of Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Prabhupada was a visionary because he saw opportunities where other people didn't see any opportunity. Prabhupada was a visionary because he saw problems where other people didn't see problems. He could see consequences that would come that people didn't forecast. When a devotee came into the room, he said something to Prabhupada, he left. When the devotee left, Prabhupada said, that is the beginning of his fall down. What happened? He just came here, he said some things and he left. Prabhupada said, because he came into the room and he didn't pay obeisances. Prabhupada picked up on one small thing and he understood the consequences would be far-reaching because a pure devotee can see what other people don't see. One time Mukunda Maharaj, this was in London, he went to the bank and he deposited some money. So when he came back, Prabhupada said, did you deposit the money? He said, yes, I deposited the money. Prabhupada said, where is the receipt? He said, he didn't give me a receipt. Prabhupada said, he didn't give you a receipt? He said, no. Prabhupada said, this signifies the beginning of the downfall of the British Empire. The guy didn't give a receipt. Prabhupada said to Mukunda Maharaj, the British were only a small number. But you know the British colonized probably about 80% of the world. Small number. They colonized 80% of the world. How was it possible? Organization and intelligence. And he said the fact that he hasn't given you a receipt means their standards of organization are coming down and therefore it's their downfall. Just see, Prabhupada, such a visionary. He could see opportunities where people didn't see opportunity. He could see problems where people saw no problem. Prabhupada saw potential in people that they didn't even see in themselves. A leader is someone who can see potential in other people and help them to awaken within themselves that which even they don't know is within themselves. That's a leader. In Britain, it said there were two prime ministers, Gladstone and Disraeli. And they said when you went in a room with Gladstone and you came out of the room, at the end of it, you thought, wow, that person is amazing. But they said when you went in a room with Disraeli and you came out, you thought that person is amazing and I could be amazing as well. That's the difference between a good leader and an amazing leader. An amazing leader doesn't just make you think they're amazing, but an amazing leader helps you to realize every soul is amazing, including you. You can achieve amazing things. And therefore, Prabhupada empowered people to do incredible things. He said, you can do it. You can go to another country. You can start a temple. Prabhupada was in a train in India with Western disciples. They stopped at a station. Prabhupada looked out, told them, is there a temple in this town? They said, no. He said, get out and start it. Srila. 21 He took sannyas. Prabhupada called him into the room. He said, now you can be the GBC of South America. The amazing thing is there was nothing in South America, but you're the GBC. Prabhupada said, you can do it. Hridayananda Maharaj said, I bought a ticket. I flew into Buenos Aires. I landed at the airport. And the first thing I did is I went to the shop and I got a map. I went to the hotel room. I put the map on the wall and I started putting pins. We're going to have a temple here. We're going to have a temple here. We're going to have a temple here. Within 2 years, South America was the biggest distributor of Srila Prabhupada's books in the world. That's leadership. I studied management and leadership at university. And then I joined the Hare Krishna movement. And I came to one devotee. He said, what did you study? I said, management and leadership. He said, I can tell you what management and leadership is in 15 seconds. I said, I studied it for 3 years. He said, I can tell you in 15 seconds. I said, tell me. He said, a leader is someone who wants you to be better than them. Finished. I said, yo, you should have told me that 3 years ago. I could have saved so much time. He said, if you ever come across a person who wants you to be better than them, they're a leader. Follow them. That's it. Prabhupada was a visionary. He brought out the best from people. He was so encouraging. Shyam Sundar Prabhu was carving the deities, Jagannath. And he was still smoking cigarettes. Prabhupada said, it's okay. Try. Prabhupada once walked into the room where Shyam Sundar was carving Jagannath. And when Prabhupada walked into the room, he saw a cigarette packet on the top of the deities. Prabhupada got his cane, and with his cane, he just flicked the cigarette packet off the deities. And then he looked at Shyam Sundar and he said, you've already come to Krishna. You've given up so much. You've come to Krishna. Why are you just letting these cigarettes stand between you and Krishna? And then Prabhupada told Shyam Sundar, just smoke one less every day. Just smoke one less every day, like that. And then gradually give it up. Prabhupada was a visionary. He saw potential in people that they never saw in themselves. Prabhupada was also a visionary because he was exposing the world. He was exposing all the lies of the world. In 1969, they televised it on national media. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Prabhupada was watching the television as supposedly man landed on the moon for the first time, while the whole world was amazed. Prabhupada looked at that news report and said, they haven't gone. The visionary. What do you mean they haven't gone? It's here, it's on television. Prabhupada said, no, it's not possible. They have not gone. The amazing thing is, 50 years later, many people now accept that they never went to the moon. At that time, Prabhupada was a visionary. He saw through the lies of the world. Prabhupada was ready to confront all the lies. They said, Prabhupada, scientists say that man came from monkeys. Prabhupada said, I say they are still monkeys, if that's what they believe. Prabhupada was ready to speak out against all ideologies that everyone else had accepted in the world. That's a visionary, is able to expose the lies. Prabhupada was able to see the problems that people had. They couldn't ascertain their problems. Prabhupada could, because he was a visionary, because he had the knowledge of the Bhagavatam. When a rich industrialist came to Prabhupada, he said, Swamiji, I have so many factories. I have so many workers. I have so much money, and still I'm miserable. Prabhupada said, obviously, Chintam aparimeyam cha pralayantam upashrita kamopa bhoga parama etavaditi nishchita. Prabhupada said, of course you're miserable. Of course you're always in anxiety. Chintam aparimeyam cha. Because people have unlimited material desires. Their anxiety is also unlimited. So he looked at the person and he said, obviously, you can't see why you're so miserable, why you have so many anxieties, because you have so many material desires. The person looked at Prabhupada and said, what shall I do? Prabhupada said, give all your money to us. We'll be happy. Krishna will be happy. You will be happy. He said, I'll get back to you on that one. We'll see how it goes. Prabhupada said, no, we want to help you. Take his number. We'll follow you up. Prabhupada was a visionary. He could see the problems that people had. And Prabhupada was a visionary because he could see the future. Prabhupada could see the future. When Prabhupada was in a New York park, and one person just sat next to him on the park bench. Who is this person? Which planet did this person arrive from? Can you imagine, in the middle of New York? Prabhupada said, I've come here to fulfill the order of my spiritual master, to spread Krishna's name all over the world. And then Prabhupada looked at that person and said, there are books, there are temples, there's a worldwide movement. Only time is separating us from them. Visionary. So what everyone else thought couldn't be done, Prabhupada knew it could be done. It's already done. Nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin. Sometimes we're in so much anxiety. How will I do it? How will I do it? How will I do it? The amazing thing is the devotee knows Krishna has already done it. All I have to do is be an instrument in the plan. This movement is going to spread whether we join it or not. The question is whether we want to be part of the adventure, whether we want to be part of that transcendental drama. So Prabhupada saw the future. It's already happened. It will happen. Now I just have to be an instrument in Krishna's hand to manifest his plans. So like this, Srila Prabhupada is a living Bhagavata, because here the verse is telling us, Purar narko dhuno dhita. Everyone in Kali Yuga is blinded. They can't see things. They can't see themselves. They can't see the world. They can't see Krishna's hand. No one can see any of these things. So the Bhagavatam gives light. But then the living Bhagavata also shows this vision that we can see opportunity. We can see problems before they become big. We can see the potential in other people. We can see the future of the Hare Krishna movement. And ultimately, we see Krishna. Srila Prabhupada was the ultimate visionary because he saw Krishna. One time, Rameshwar Prabhu, they were in a press conference. I think this is how the story goes, but the gist of it is there. And the reporter asked Prabhupada, how do you select the leaders in your movement? Prabhupada said, Krishna tells me. Krishna tells me. So the reporter was a bit bewildered by that. So Rameshwar Prabhu thought he would equalize the situation. So he said to the reporter, yeah, what he means is that Krishna is in his heart. And Krishna inspires him with the message. And then he understands. And Prabhupada looked at him and said, no, Krishna tells me directly. I speak to him. Prabhupada was seeing Krishna. One time another devotee said to Prabhupada, how do you get the confidence to debate with all these scientists, to debate with all these people, very learned? How do you get the confidence? Prabhupada said, how can I believe them when they say Krishna doesn't exist, when I'm seeing Krishna every day? I see Krishna. Therefore, when Prabhupada was debating them, it wasn't confidence in his philosophical ability. It was confidence coming from the fact that he was seeing Krishna. There's no reason to not believe in Krishna. It's clear, I'm seeing Krishna. So like this, Srila Prabhupada is the living Bhagavata. And therefore, by associating with the book Bhagavata, the person Bhagavata, we also become visionaries. You see, in the beginning, we only see the world through our senses and through our sentiments. In the beginning of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in the beginning of the Gita, Arjuna is only seeing the battlefield through his senses and through his sentiments. And because he's seeing only through his senses and sentiments, he becomes bewildered. Vipatuscha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shramshaste hastat tvakcheva paridayate. Arjun who said, if anyone tells me to put my Gandiva bow down, I'll kill them. A Kshatriya can never put their bow down. The same Arjun became so bewildered. Gandivam shram sate hastat, that the Gandiva bows was slipping from his hand. And why did he become bewildered? Because he was only seeing the world through his senses and through his sentiments. If you look at your life only through the material instrument, you will become bewildered. Therefore, what does Krishna do? He elevates Arjun's vision and he teaches Arjun to see not through the senses and the sentiments, but to see the world through Shastra. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Karya Vyavastiti. Now Krishna tells Arjun, see the world through Shastra. Then you will know what is to be done, what is not to be done. You will never become bewildered. And then eventually, when Arjun sees the world through Shastra, then eventually he begins seeing the world as a spirit soul. He sees the world through the soul. Nastamoha shmriti labdva tvat prasadat mayachyuta stitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava. Nastamoha shmriti labdva. All of my illusion has now gone. So if you associate with the visionary, then the visionary uplifts your vision. 99.9% of the world are only seeing through the senses and the sentiments. Therefore, bewildering things happen in the world and nobody can make sense of it. Everyone gets bewildered. But then when you elevate your vision and you see through Shastra, Jnana Chaksus, Shastra Chaksus, then you become of a higher grade vision. And once you become completely purified, You don't just see the world through Shastra, but you see the world as a spirit soul. And when you see through the soul, then you can never become bewildered. And therefore, Arjun says, Stitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam dava. Now all my doubts have gone. Now all my bewilderment is gone. Because he's seeing now through the soul. So the Bhagavatam is there to help us to become visionaries. The Bhagavata is there to help us become a visionary. And if we associate with these visionary souls like Srila Prabhupada, then we also look at the world in a very different way. Everyone is trying to figure out life outside of them. Fix this, achieve this, do that, do this. People are missing the point completely. Because unless you adjust your inner vision, no matter what you do outside of you in the world, everything will fail. Therefore, the goal of Krishna consciousness is to become a visionary. And Srila Prabhupada is our great example of how to live with spiritual vision. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so we have a little bit of time. If anyone wants to ask any questions, yes.
Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the class. So Maharaj, like how you spoke about having a vision, and we see sometimes there's a challenge in balancing culture versus the modern lifestyle. Because when you want to introduce something, generally the term is it's not Prabhupada's standard. So where do you draw the line? And should we want to venture into modern things for the sake of preaching, or just for the sake of, let's say, just attracting more people to Krishna consciousness? So how do we draw the line? Should we be like this?
Yeah, thank you for this question. Well, maybe in the next few days, one of the sessions will be Prabhupada the Innovator. So we'll do a whole class on this. How Srila Prabhupada knew expertly how to preserve the principles of Krishna consciousness but adjust to the time, place, and circumstance. This is living theology. Living theology means that it's always representing itself to be relevant to the time. Prabhupada was always explaining Krishna consciousness in a way that was accessible to the people of the time. When Prabhupada was in San Francisco and a hippie put his hand up, the hippie asked the question, what is the spiritual world like? Prabhupada could have stayed very true to Shastra. Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha lakshavrate shisurabira vipalayantam. He could have given a very shastric answer. What is the spiritual world like? Prabhupada looked at the hippie and said, the spiritual world is like an ocean of LSD. That is how you connect. If you want to take people on a journey, first you have to meet them where they are. Therefore, Prabhupada said, when I came to America for 2 months in Butler, I was only studying the American people. Because if you don't understand the people, the culture, the needs, the interests, the concerns, the pain points, how you will be able to communicate Krishna consciousness in a way which is relevant. So no doubt we have to adjust. Prabhupada made so many adjustments. And if we are followers of Prabhupada, we also have to follow the mood of Prabhupada, which is to adjust. But at the same time, we have to maintain the principles. We have to preserve. So that means one must understand what is the difference between a principle and a detail. And that has to always be done in discussion amongst the Vaishnavas. And then ultimately we have to try different things. So no doubt we have to change, we have to adjust, but not to the extent that we dilute the purity of Krishna consciousness. And that is always a balance. And those debates are going on. So those are good debates. But ultimately, we have to try different things. And if the results are not coming, if we're not achieving what Prabhupada wanted us to achieve, then we have to look very, very closely. Are we following Prabhupada? When we go to America, for example, I'm just saying that because I was just in America, we have wonderful temples. But when you go to practically every temple, there is less than 5% are of the local population. That's a problem. Because every day if we go in front of Srila Prabhupada and we say, Paschatya de Shatarine, if that's what we're glorifying Srila Prabhupada for, we then have to ask ourselves, is that what's happening in the Krishna consciousness movement? And if we're not able to attract the whole world to Krishna consciousness, it means either we have to look at our purity or we have to look at our strategy. And I would suggest that we have to probably look at both. And so, for sure, Srila Prabhupada wanted to build a house in which the whole world could live. How are we going to make it relevant for people? The devotees have to go to bed at night in anxiety. How are we going to do it? Because that's the real way to glorify Prabhupada, by fulfilling his mission. But we'll talk more about this in the coming days. Anyone else? Any questions?
I have two questions. First, how do you find the balance between duty and spiritual planning? So, cancel out this material chaos or material goals. I have to achieve this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And second,
I'll just do that one first. I'll just do that one first, and then you can ask second question. So how do you balance duty and your spiritual journey? You have responsibilities in life. You have so many things you have to do, so many things. Yes. First thing is, Krishna says in the Gita, Yat karoshi, yadashnashi, yat johoshi, dadashi, yat tapashashi konteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Ensure that everything in your life, even all of your duties, connect it to Krishna. You need a job, connect it to Krishna. Eventually, you need a house, make it a temple. Eventually, you may have a family, make sure the family is centered around spiritual things. Then your duty doesn't have to be in competition with your Krishna consciousness, but your duty actually takes you closer to Krishna. Right? So try to build a life in which everything connects to Krishna. But yes, You have to put time, you have to put energy, you have to put effort into pursuing your duty. And sometimes it feels like that means you have less time for Krishna consciousness. Right? I think that's what you're saying. So therefore, at least have good sadhana, at least have times in the week, times in the year when you fully dedicate yourself to Krishna, times in the day when you fully dedicate yourself to Krishna. And then you have to go out there and do your duty. But as Krishna says to Arjun, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhya cha. You have to fight, and at the same time you have to remember me. So if you have good sadhana, if you have good times of spiritual absorption, then even when you're out there and you're doing your duty, you'll still be able to remember Krishna. You won't be forgetful. So like that. Connect your duty to Krishna, and outside of doing your duty, do very good sadhana. Then when you're doing your duty, you'll be able to remember Krishna. Is that okay?
We always struggle to find clear path to beauty for the purpose, sacred purpose. We always want to try this, do this, can achieve this, do this. How do you form a clear consciousness that yes, if I get to this path, I achieve this. How do you develop that sense of
Purpose, focus, and purpose. There are only 2 verses that are repeated in the Bhagavad Gita verbatim. One verse, Krishna says, always think of me. Krishna says it twice. There's one other verse that Krishna repeats twice in the Gita. Shreyan svadharma viguna paradharma svanustitat. This verse Krishna repeats twice. He says, you must do your own duty, even if imperfectly, and never imitate another person's duty. Krishna, he says that twice. That's very, very important. Very, very telling. So everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a unique personality. Everyone has a unique ability. Everyone has their own dharma. So you are an individual. You have your own dharma. And through consulting with devotees, through understanding your own personality, through prayer to Krishna, through trying different things, eventually you come to the point where you understand, this is my dharma. This is my purpose. This is what I'm meant to be doing in this life. And once you're in your dharma, and then you offer your dharma in service to Krishna, you'll find focus. The reason why most people don't have focus, the reason why most people lose enthusiasm in life is because they are doing something which is not their dharma. The moment you find your dharma, you will be very enthusiastic. So therefore you have to spend time. Don't try to imitate someone else's dharma. Don't try to, even when we know sometimes our dharma, we neglect it. So therefore you have to honor your own dharma. And you find that. I mentioned how you find that. So like that. Then the focus will come. Yeah, is that okay? All right. I think it's 9 o'clock. We should end here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.